welcome to the morning show. We're coming to you today on WJOPLP Newburyport at FM 96.3 on Channel 9 and on Newburyport Community Media's YouTube channel at ncmhub.org. I'm your host, Mary Jacobsen, and I'm very happy to have an exciting topic on our agenda today. We're going to be talking about the Playwrights Collaborative, and to talk about it, we have Jack Rushton here. Jack is the co-founder of the collaborative. He's also the director of new play programs for the Greenwich Theatre Company, and he is a Renaissance man. He's an actor, producer, writer. Did I leave anything out, Jack?
Director,
of course. Jack, thank you for taking time to come to the morning show, and welcome.
Thank you for having us, Mary. It's great to be here.
It's a pleasure, absolutely. And Camille Garro is here, a favored and returning guest to the morning show. She is a member of the steering committee for the collaborative, and she's also a Renaissance person. She's an accomplished playwright, actor, many things. Most recently, she was author of the book for the musical Il Bastardo da Vinci, which played at the Firehouse locally. So, Camille, thanks for coming back to the morning show. Fun to be able to talk to you about the Playwrights Collaborative today.
Our pleasure.
Well, I would like to begin with having you tell us about the origin story of the Playwrights Collaborative. When, why, how, and by whom was the collaborative started?
Sure, I'll chime in on that. Back in, I think it was September of 2012, a group of us, all actors and directors and writers in the area, decided to just start a writer's workshop. So when you write a new play, really the most important thing is to hear it out loud.
Absolutely.
What you read, what you hear in your head, and what you put down on paper can play a lot differently when other people are embodying the work. And so that was going to be very informative. Sherry Bonder, Charlie Bradley, and I started the group and invited anyone who wanted to come. And we had, a few guidelines. Every playwright would get a half an hour. We'd meet for 3 hours. So 10, 20 minutes to hear the work, 10 minutes of feedback. And it soon became apparent that we were all really invested in each other's work. Because it's important for a playwright to not only hear it out loud, but to receive the insight and the suggestions from other people with the overarching theme, just to make the work as compelling and as strong as possible. Because again, you might have a great idea, a great premise, and how do you create an entire universe out of that, especially in a short play format, 10 minutes, one act of 20 minutes. And so other people were Nick Hennessy, who's a prolific playwright, and he's had work at the Firehouse, Gloucester Stage Company. Dave Sussman from Kennebunk, Maine, was one of our original playwrights. Dave has been selected to the Boston Theater Marathon 7 different times. He's one of the great comedy writers you'll ever meet. And so we put, some creative people in the room together, and because we had all either directed each other or acted with each other, or written especially for each other, because sometimes as a writer you hear the voice of certain people or certain characters, which actually makes writing a little easier. So from that, we were collaborating from the beginning. And as a workshop, we kept inviting anyone who wanted to come. It's free and open to the public. It still is. And I'd say we had 15, maybe 20 regulars. Camille joined almost
2013.
Yeah, so the next year. Right? And Camille was just starting out as a playwright.
I didn't even start out as a playwright. I started out just being interested in coming and listening and wanting to read, because I was doing acting at the Firehouse and at Actors Studio. So I was into the acting part, and then realized, this is exciting, hearing them develop these plays.
And thus a playwright was born.
That's how it started. I did not know.
And look what happened with Camille.
It took. Well, Jack, it sounds like this collaborative was simply a wonderful idea. because what happened then was you provided an incubator
Yes.
for new plays.
Yes.
And not only an incubator for experienced playwrights who'd been, already working in the field and getting a kind of mentorship and guidance and, I guess, reality check. Does this really sound the way? Does it communicate the themes and the emotions that I wanted to convey? But also clearly inviting new people in who were interested and then got inspired by being around, I'm sure, the more experienced people and having the opportunity to learn and think, I want to do more of this, and then get the feedback, which is a wonderful gift to give people.
Well, thank you. We've had lots of people just come originally, like Camille, who then became quite prolific. Because when you get the bug to write, you tend to want to do a lot of writing. And so, again, it's important to have that forum to hear your work.
Yeah.
But when you put a lot of friendly, collegial people in the same room who all like each other and all share one real strong common passion for theater, a lot of magic can happen, which is really wonderful.
Yeah.
Our playwrights have gone on to be produced all over the place. I've been fortunate. I've written a lot of plays. 40 of my shorts have been performed at more than 200 theaters worldwide.
Wow.
One won a big prize called the Andaluz Award from the Fusion
congrats.
Theater. Thank you. But it was workshop, you see, that made the difference on the play.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had created this universe. It's called George's Radio. It was a terrific play, but I couldn't nail the ending. The ending just wasn't there for me. And yet one of our members, Adair Rowland, made a very strong suggestion. Well, just, how about this as an ending? I took her advice, sent it off, and it won the award. I don't think it would have won the award without Adair's advice, is the point. And so as I said, we're all like partners.
Well,
we're partners in each other's work.
This is the very definition of a collaboration, isn't it?
Yes.
Which redounds then to the benefit of all, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, I know that in what I read about the background information that you sent me, Jack, and thank you very much, that you had an initial home base, is how you described the Actors Studio of Newburyport.
I want to give a big shout out to Mark Clopton, who started the Actors Studio in Newburyport, I think in 1991. I'd done a lot of theater in high school and college, and a little after college, and got away from it for a long time. But back in 2007, I ran into someone. They said, "Oh, try Mark Clopton's cold reading class, just for fun, and it's theater." So I did that, and that just turned everything back on for me, as it does for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Right, Camille?
Yep, that's what did it for me.
Yeah, and so Mark has always been a mentor and a friend and a comrade, and almost all of the people that come to the Playwrights Collaborative now, and back then when we were the Writers' Workshop, all have been taught or mentored by Mark to some degree, and so we were renting the Actors Studio because the Actors Studio always needs support. That morphed into, for our space to have these workshops, that morphed into, we would do an annual show at the Actors Studio called Collaboration, and the Actors Studio would keep all the proceeds, right? So if you do 3 performances, 50 seats, that was always, close to a couple $1,000. So wonderful support for the Actors Studio. They win. Our actors and directors and writers, they have their show up, and hopefully the audience is treated to some great programming. And so that worked really well for a long time. So we did 5 of those shows. And then for the Actors Studio, again, as home base, going back to George's Radio, I went out to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where the George's Radio was being performed. And they have a very prestigious National Short Play Festival at the Fusion Theater. And when I came back, I said to Mark, "Hey, we can do this. How about our own National Short Play Festival? We'll invite submissions for worldwide." And so we did, getting 350 submissions from playwrights across the globe, New Zealand, some from Africa, a lot from Europe, Canada. And we, as part of the writer's workshop, we would be the judges and read through all the plays and narrow the list down, narrow the list down, narrow the list down to the final 8. So we did 5 of those shows, along with our collaboration shows, for the Actors Studio. COVID definitely got in the way of a lot of different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Theater certainly was sidelined, though we stayed busy.
We became very inventive and resourceful and said, okay, if we can't do it here, that's what prompted the traveling troupe idea, that, Custom House, and just finding a venue, because Actors Studio closed down. They are now back up and running in Salisbury, but for a few years they didn't have a location. And so we knew we wanted to continue with the group of letting people hear our work, keep writing, keep acting, keep directing, and everybody. And that's actually, ironically, when it grew. We, as he said in the write-up, we started out with like maybe 5 people. I remember sometimes we would read with 5 of us or 4, and now it's the list goes out to 58 people. But every week when we meet, there's a good 30 people that come, and we had to find a bigger location to just meet.
Absolutely.
And because of that, we realized there's a big demand for this, and so we always found a location. And so, the silver lining, I hate using that expression, but we became very resourceful and realized everybody needs this, so let's find a venue, let's find places.
Yeah, clearly it was a felt need, or people didn't know they felt the need.
Right.
But when they learned about you and they saw some of the plays, clearly they thought, oh, I want to be part of that because I've got the writing bug or the acting bug, or I'm just interested and want to learn more. And that's how you kind of began, Camille.
Absolutely.
And so I know that you expanded in your membership, but you expanded also then in terms of the types of arts and culture organizations that you program for, and also significantly the geographic range. So tell us a little bit about that expansion and how it came about and what impact it's had on the collaborative.
And we, excuse me just for a second, it has been a learning curve for the and the
I'm
adventures with that. That's become the adventure.
And or a shenanigan.
Yes, we decided before the show there's a fine line between an adventure and a shenanigan, but we know when we crossed it.
The Custom House Maritime Museum in Newburyport is a wonderful facility.
Yes, they
and
are.
They have a new executive director now, James Russell, who is a wonderful human being.
Yes, I interviewed him a few
was
weeks
here
ago.
too.
Oh, he's terrific.
Yes.
3 years ago, the Custom House, under other leadership, and Camille's involvement on the board of the Custom House, and also Women's History Month, or Her Story
Month,
would be, some of the programming would be at the Custom House, so they were no stranger to having some theater in their second floor music chamber, which acoustically is wild, but it's a great space, okay? So so in keeping with the collaboration theme from what we used to do at the Actors Studio, and in trying to serve all of our playwrights within the Playwrights Collaborative, the Custom House, from my perspective, became a wonderful venue and wonderful testing ground for all of our playwrights' new work. So the first year we did 3 consecutive Sundays, 7 different plays from 7 different playwrights each Sunday. So if we had 6 or 7 playwrights at the beginning, or 8 playwrights at the beginning, and when we first began, we now have like 20 or 21 playwrights in the group. So the idea for the Custom House shows was that every playwright would have a chance to have their work performed, their best work, all stuff that we had worked on during workshop, but let's have a show. So Custom House kept all the proceeds, which is wonderful. We did it again the next year, which was fantastic. And from that, we decided, this is scalable. Okay, we can go other organizations. Everyone's now coming out of COVID. They're just beginning to reopen, essentially. Other organizations, other theaters need support. So one of our first traveling troupe gigs, I booked it at the Norwich Art Center in Norwich, Connecticut, where I have friends in Norwich, and I've had some work done down there. And so that was great. We were all set to go, okay? All set to go. Show was opening October 7th and 8th of last year.
Oh.
All right? And then, unfortunately, there had been a lot of rain in Connecticut, a ton. Like 6 inches in New York City. This storm was centered over between the Connecticut and the Hudson River.
Yeah.
And they had some problems with their roof. Okay, so they canceled the show, and we were left holding the bag because
booked with hotels.
Oh my gosh.
everything. Traveling troupe on the road. I had also just received a grant from the Mass Cultural Council, personal grant, which was a pre-COVID relief kind of thing for theater artists.
Yeah.
So I was funding some of this, or was going to, but we couldn't go to Norwich. So now it's like, that's disappointing,
Right.
because all these plays were ready to go, and
Right.
everyone had rehearsed and was totally all set. And simultaneously, the Actors Studio was just reopening in Salisbury.
Right.
So our first traveling troupe show was entitled Coming Home. Because we came home.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
a great
Yes, you did.
We had a great weekend at the Actors Studio.
There's some karma involved.
There was.
We feel that way.
And big thanks to Mark Clopton and
Sure,
to Kim
yeah.
Wilkinson for making that show happen.
Yeah.
It was terrific. The space wasn't completely ready yet, but it didn't matter.
Audiences don't, they
We-
see right through.
And we had,
Right.
I think we sold out each
Wonderful.
performance, so that was
That's
great.
a great story.
And then also in looking for venues to bring this great show to, I also had reached out to the Chelmsford Center for the Arts in Chelmsford, Mass.
Yeah.
Lauren Cochran is the ED there, and their first available was January 13th and 14th. So great. So we did the Coming Home show and retitled it From Heartbreak to Hilarity, and took that to Chelmsford. Okay, and we had great houses in
yeah.
Chelmsford.
Wonderful.
Previously, I had booked the Chocolate Church Art Center in Bath, Maine, and that was set for March, right? We all went up there. That was quite an interesting time.
Right.
They weren't exactly ready for us, let's just put it that way. But we made it work, and we got the space shipshape, and we had some great audiences.
Oh, wonderful.
And from there, and from the Nashoba Players in Westford, essentially, in
Yes,
Westford, Mass.
yeah.
And there's a venue there called the Parish Center for the Arts, which is a wonderful venue. Nashoba Players always puts their shows up there, but they had some issues, and they were going to go dark until October unless they could fill what had already been booked, May
Yeah.
3rd and 4th. So they called me and said,
Right.
hey, you did this great show at Chelmsford. Would you guys come down and just put a show up for us, and we'll get the houses? I said, sure. Guess what? This is actually what we do. Okay?
So,
We come
yeah.
and we to benefit you.
Wonderful.
You keep all the proceeds. We don't want it. We're happy just to be up on stage and having our work produced.
It's more than a small degree of synchronicity involved for the collaborative and for the communities that you wind up helping out or sometimes saving. But you mentioned something that I wanted to ask you about, because it seems as though a guiding practice and principle of the collaboratives is to make sure that the proceeds stay with the sponsoring organization, whether it's the
Absolutely.
Actors Studio or the Nashoba Playhouse. And I was curious to find out now, what makes that a priority for you? Making sure that your host venues keep the proceedings.
From my perspective, and Camille, I'm sure will have a much different answer, maybe the same, I don't know. From my perspective, theater, for me at least, is all about giving back. This is what we do. We give back. We've been very fortunate.
Yeah.
We have a lot of talent in our ranks, and our talent is getting a chance to be out there and shine as
Yeah.
much as they can. I've been very fortunate in my writing. Camille has been very fortunate. And so to give back is the important thing. But there's self-interest involved at the same time, because our work gets put out there, and our actors and our directors get a chance. But there are no gatekeepers either, right? So we are our own gatekeepers, if you will. So giving from from my perspective, again, giving back is really the most important thing.
Yeah, well put, Jack.
Yes.
You see it the same way,
I
Camille?
absolutely do.
Yeah.
It's just for me, I'm so grateful that I had this opportunity. I just keep pinching myself that I moved to Newburyport and ended up in this area that just cultivates all this and nurtures it, and to be able to do this with such embracing, open arms everywhere
Yes.
we go, that it's just an incredible feeling and
Newburyport is a
opportunity.
very special place, isn't it?
it
I
really
wake
is.
up in the morning and I'm grateful to live here. It's a small city, but the way I put it, it has an outsized historic and cultural footprint.
It certainly
We're
does.
very lucky to be here, I think. So,
I've traveled to see my own work produced at other theaters,
yeah.
and from New York to, well, all over the place. So, and they do a great job. But every time I go, I'm always struck that the quality of theater that we produce in Newburyport is equal, if not better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never much worse.
Yeah.
And I'm even comparing it to equity performances I've seen
Yeah.
of my work. So I think what the Traveling Troupe and the Playwrights Collaborative does now is we bring Newburyport's brand of theater to other venues.
Well, that's a great way to put it.
Because,
I like that.
because there's a lot of theater here.
A lot of
at the-
talent here.
A lot of, a
Yeah.
lot of stuff up at the Firehouse,
Yeah.
at the Actors Studio, great plays, great
Yeah.
programming, two great organizations. So there's no reason to compete, right? Let's just take it on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things I was curious about, because you are a traveling troupe, and with your expansion, you're going to places that are further out, like Bath, Maine. That's not exactly next door.
2 hours
And
is our outer limit.
And you have a short timeline for getting everything produced, getting the rehearsals, doing sound checks. So,
Mary, can I just
I'm-
jump in on that for a second, just so people can get an idea? The way we do it is, if the show is Saturday night at 7:30, okay? We've never been in the space before,
Yeah.
ever. Don't know it at all. We get there at 1 o'clock. We acclimate for 30 minutes. The venue supplies the tech person and maybe some stage crew, right? And we do a dress tech of the show until we've done it, and that usually lasts till about 4:30. Then people get a chance to chill out, and then call for the actors and everyone else at 6 o'clock. For your audience, if anyone knows or is affiliated with or has a strong feeling about any theater or cultural organization that they feel strongly about, I think we would love the chance to perform elsewhere to benefit that host venue, okay? Because that's what we do. We're booking out next year, but there's still room on the calendar for other things.
good to know.
But we get there, and we mount the show in 6 hours, and then it goes up. And Sunday we're all set. It's rinse and repeat.
that actually was what I was going to ask you, Jack. You just answered. Because it's such a short timeline, I know, for getting everything done. And I'm figuring that's where some of the shenanigans probably
Definitely.
But so in other words, you're incredibly efficiently well organized to do it, and you pull it off. So
I want
anyway, that's
a shout out to Bruce DeVoe, who's one of our
Okay.
members. Bruce is very organized. I try to be organized, but Bruce is very organized.
well.
And-
every traveling troupe certainly needs a really organized person. I'm sure.
And another really organized person is Emily Colwell,
Okay.
who
You've got
ran
two.
our Q to Q at
There's
the
a
chocolate.
Again, these people have risen from all this. They may not have even known they had these talents either, and this is just
Well, isn't that
cultivated all
wonderful?
that. Yeah.
To be tapping those
Yes.
perhaps undiscovered talents and gifts inside people. That's a gift to the world. Well, we've been.
Michelle Mombrini, again, another member, I asked her to be in a play of mine, which means being off book, memorized, right? And initially she said, "Oh no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I only do cold readings in acting class."
Yeah.
And I said, "No, Michelle, just try it. and see what happens. Okay.
All these people we've been mentioning are on those clips. If you want to show they're all in those little photos that I sent Michelle and Bruce and Sherry.
Huh.
So, Maeve, why don't you put up all three of the photos?
Yeah.
Two are of a play called Shelf Life and one of a play called Heat, and I think those are all written by
Camille?
By me,
you,
yeah.
Camille. So we'll just show those photos now, Maeve, just for a few seconds.
Yeah,
each,
because
so
those
we
are
can
people
see
that
the people
are
that
acting, but they have all these other talents.
Right.
And this is what I learned from Mark Clopton, okay, and maybe what everyone else did too. One of my biggest takeaways was you're capable of virtually anything in the theater world. So, your biggest obstacle is yourself.
Yeah, that
And
makes perfect sense.
if you open yourself
Yeah.
up to all the possibilities, whether you're acting or directing or writing, and tap into it, sky's the limit. So
Yeah.
going back to these venues, because we have now been in 3, 4, 5, 6 different venues, all under the same constraints of having never been there before and everything else, it's now that mysteriousness is actually no longer a mystery.
Right.
So our people are flexible,
Right.
adaptable, and anything. And in the theater business, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong.
And that is where
Which is certainly the Peter principle.
The adventure happens, like in Maine,
Yeah.
in the Chocolate Church.
Yeah.
One of our main actresses,
Yeah.
Shannon, had a few days before we were supposed to go.
Yeah.
They had been rehearsing my play plus 2 others. She fell and got serious
dear.
concussion, fractured her eye socket. Her face was.
So
She
this
has
is-
a permanent dent in her head, and she was, and Jack kept saying, "Oh, she'll make it. She's a professional. She knows the show must go on." Well, I said, "Well, I don't know about that because she's like dizzy and all this."
Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately,
plan B was that I filled in for her, and this was off book.
Yeah.
So it does make you.
This is Camille's
Yeah.
Camille's play Love in a Box, which is a great play set in the post office.
Yeah.
The poor Shannon.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Just
But
days,
everybody
days
had to
before.
scramble. She was in 3. That's the thing about when you're traveling. You double up, you triple up,
Yep.
and you will perform, and you'll maybe direct in another, and all that. Well, it's not like big theater where you have the understudies, and so people had to fill in quickly. I had to learn those lines, even though I wrote it. I didn't really know it all, and acted, and other people filled in for her other spots. So you.
So, moral of the story, you got to be nimble and you got to be prepared for something totally unexpected to totally go wrong. And so you have to adapt and get in there, and the show will
Exactly.
go on because you're adaptable people.
Absolutely.
Expect the unexpected.
Well, we talking about plays and the traveling troupe, and I'm curious to find out what is it for. Been just to hear from both of you. What is it that in your opinion and experience makes the experience of live theater different in quality or whatever ways from the other venues such as film or TV?
Well, for one, I remember the first time. It isn't even so much live theater with big theaters. I love that, but I fell in love with it at a small theater in Somerville, like maybe 30 years ago. That I saw a drama being being performed in a box, black box theater, and I never knew about it or anything about it, but it was so electric, it was so dynamic. I was getting chills up my
Interesting.
spine with that intimacy
Yeah.
of that
Oh,
you
that's a good way to put
really
it.
do hear what they're saying. You understand, you become involved. And so it isn't even just live theater, which I just love, even big theater musicals and big drama, but particularly that's what's brought this level. It's so personal to me is that I just find it so much more electrifying and
Electrifying and intimate. Good
Yeah,
words.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the energy. It's the
Yeah.
energy in the room.
Yeah.
You're watching TV, you're watching a movie, what have you, you are watching it, maybe you're watching it with
Yes.
someone else, and you can share that. But when you're in a room with an audience and other people are up on stage, the energy of empathy really factors in, because you transport, and the actors transport the energy in the room. Some nights the energy is low. Some nights it's really
very
high.
palpable.
Interesting, yeah.
Sometimes people are laughing at places in the comedy where you didn't expect.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
throwing the actors off.
And it
Yeah.
feeds back and forth.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
energy, the actors really hear and respond to the audience. The audience feeds to that. It's an
So it's
incredible
really-
symbiotic
It's
relationship.
organic is the word that comes
Yeah.
to mind.
Absolutely.
And you're creating something new each time you have a performance, something that never existed before.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
Brian Dennehy said he was on
I know,
Broadway,
yeah.
in Death of a Salesman,
Yes.
in one of the reprisals, and he said it took him 6 months to figure out his character, Willie Loman. He had
Yeah.
already been on stage for 6 months.
Yeah.
So there's discovery and the adventure,
Yeah.
because every night is different.
Yeah.
No matter if you're Brian Dennehy or just us on stage,
Yeah.
no play will ever be the same night after night after
Yeah.
night. There's always something
Right.
new, whether it's the energy in the
Yeah.
room, the energy of the actors on stage, and that's what's fascinating to
Yeah.
me. Okay, it's
Yeah.
fascinating.
And that's a difference. I mean, because a TV show or a film, they're going to be the same every time you see it.
Right.
The audience might have somewhat
Right.
different level of responses, but it's not nearly as vibrant and alive and volatile also as what you're describing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I'm
Volatile.
curious to find out then, you're both people who love theater and have seen a lot of theater, and I just wanted to ask you, let's talk about plays a little bit, some of the content of some of the plays. For each of you, I'd just be curious if you could talk briefly about a play, and it could be one you wrote, it could be one you saw locally or on Broadway, that just really impacted you, that really touched you or inspired you in your own writing or performing. And just tell us what the play was and a little bit maybe about what it was about. Maybe it'll be one we've all heard of and know what it's about, and what it was that inspired you about it or
I
stays
tend
with you.
to get inspired to write things that are, and I like to give it an ironic twist and also a touch of comedic, approach, because I like to write about everyday events, almost,
Yeah.
and put it in a fun. I can take a serious subject and try to give it some humor. I kind of think of it as the Seinfeld of playwriting. It's like the everyday occurrence. And for instance, that play with shelf life was inspired when my dad was aging and really was resisting everything he had
Yeah.
to do, and life became. Your markers, were the 400 packets of Splenda. Everything became markers of time.
Yeah.
And, 12 rolls of toilet paper.
Yeah.
And you kind of, he became to see life like that. So I took that as the
Yeah.
subject and went with that.
Yeah.
So, and then a lot of times I develop everyday occurrences with couples, and I'm so fascinated by the interaction of couples.
Yeah.
How they don't know each other after being with each other for 50 years or whatever, and just again put a comedic twist to it,
Yeah.
so that my goal is not that I intentionally have a goal, but
Yeah.
I like to think that people that see it will resonate with them. Plus, they'll go and experience those things and say, "Oh, that's right. This is
Yes,
happening.
right.
This is just like that
Right,
play.
yeah.
So that's my inspiration.
I'm
It's
sure
kind of like
people-
the everyday drama.
Confident people resonate with both of those things. And then,
And I
when
like
you-
that the irony of it, because even upsetting things can be very funny.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
so-
And it's often, salvific to find the humor in something that otherwise can be just very, very deeply challenging. It's good to be able to sometimes
Yeah.
be lighthearted
Yeah.
about it
Yeah.
as well. So thank you for that. What about you, Jack?
So I'm a David Mamet fan, and if you ask for something that really resonated with me
Yeah.
when I first saw it in terms of live theater, so I'm going to go with Glengarry Glen Ross
Okay.
as one of
yeah.
the most powerful pieces of theater and
Yeah.
inspirational, at least to me, because when I write, I write. I never set out thinking, oh, what should I write?
Yeah.
I just sit down and start writing. And it might be a couple of beats that I hear, opening lines of dialogue, and I'll get that down, and then I'll let that move me through the piece.
Oh, interesting.
But I do want to stay with the father theme, and isn't Father's Day's coming up, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple weeks.
So I wrote a play called, which was at the Firehouse recently in Silver Theater, called Remembering Elizabeth. And because when I write, it's cathartic, and I use it as a catharsis. My dad, who now has passed, but at the time he wasn't doing very well, and he had been in a wheelchair for quite a while, and it was sad. So I tried to imagine the time when he would get up out of the wheelchair one last time and become his old self again,
Oh, yeah.
the way he used to be,
Yeah.
as opposed to what he was now.
Yeah.
And so I wrote that play to achieve that end. So it was a tribute to Dad. So
Oh,
Happy
sounds
Father's
very
Day, Dad.
poignant. Yeah.
It's a good play.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
been produced quite a
Yeah.
few places, and as an audio play. Going back to Shenanigans again, there is a UK theater group called Theatrical Shenanigans, and
There had to be.
Rachel.
Of course.
So they have calls. They want submissions from time to time, and I sent them that, and they did an audio version of it with two English
wonderful.
actors, which was spectacular. It was
yeah.
spectacular.
Well,
So-
anybody who's lived through having a parent reach a certain age and a diminishment of their powers will certainly connect with that, Jack.
Yeah.
So thank you both for those descriptions. Well, what does the future hold for the
We
Playwrights
have another Custom
Collaborative?
House.
We're booking out because we're definitely gaining traction, and our next show is going to be at the Exeter Public Library on Saturday, July 20th, up in Exeter. It's free and open to the public. We're rolling out completely new material. These will be staged readings. Apparently, as it turned out, and this comes by way of another member of ours, Chet Hertz, who lives in Exeter, who did all the groundwork. Apparently, the Exeter Public Library has been dying to have some theater programming.
Well, it's a win-win then
Wow.
for everyone. Isn't that great?
Yeah, so we'll get there. Doors open at 10.
Yeah.
This time we'll get there at 9 a.m.
You've got an hour to set up.
I have music stands in the trunk of my car. Have
Great.
music stands will travel.
Great.
Again, these are stage readings. But what we're hopeful for is that it will be, they'll want us on a quarterly basis. And this
Wonderful.
will be another way for us to, test our new work
Right.
that we've already had in workshop, but now we can bring to an audience,
Right.
gauge interaction and reaction, and then
Yeah.
some of those plays will continue on to full productions.
Great.
We are also, our new home base is at the Union Congregational Church in Amesbury, right on the banks of the Merrimack River at 350 Main Street. Anyone who wants to come by can. It's free and open to the public. You get into the church from the back, lots of parking. Our next meeting is this coming Sunday, June 9th.
All right.
Starts at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Our next one after that will be June 30th, also starts at 2 o'clock, and then July 21st,
Wonderful.
also at 2.
Wonderful.
Anyone who wants to swing by and check us out, that would be wonderful. But the church itself, we meet in an anteroom. The church itself has this amazing sanctuary, amazing theater space.
Oh.
And it's not a church like with pews. It is a church that's like in the round, and it goes up. It's an old meeting house, and so there's
Yes.
every seat's a great seat. And so we're talking with them now about doing maybe a show or two for them, full productions in the sanctuary coming up.
That's exciting.
Our recent
Yeah.
visit with the Custom House just recently was so exciting, so successful that James Russell invited us back, so we're going to be
Wonderful.
back there in November
Oh,
sometime.
that's terrific.
Yeah,
Well,
well-
in other words, you're busy.
We'll give thanks. Another venue, which nothing solid yet, but we did have preliminary discussions, is with the Methuen Memorial Music Hall,
Wonderful.
which
Okay.
has a giant organ.
Oh,
And the man bought the organ, okay, at the turn of the century from the Boston Symphony.
wow.
It's a giant organ, if you like organ music. And the organ was so big, he built the building to house the organ. So
Everything has a
Well,
story.
you know, you say that, and you just have to find a way to work
They-
that into some play.
they-
Absolutely.
That's
They-
very exciting.
they seat 300. So
Wonderful.
we're talking about
Well-
maybe doing a fundraiser for them next year.
Wonderful. Well, Jack, is there thank you for talking about when the upcoming meetings are and where they are at the Union Congregational Church in Amesbury. Is there any way people can find out about upcoming productions that you have?
We try to keep our Facebook page up to date, and John Van Dree is our administrator who does a terrific job.
Right, yeah.
Your Facebook page for the Playwrights Collaborative.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
Google it.
Yeah, that's right. And then they can reach me via email.
Especially if they want to participate
Yeah.
in our workshops.
Right.
We really encourage and
Okay.
welcome people.
Yeah, the more
so
the
they can
merrier.
reach out to
And Jack,
him.
I believe you have your own website.
I
And
do,
that's somewhere people
www.jack-rushton.com. And my email is jackrushton56@yahoo.com.
Easy to remember. Excellent.
Perhaps.
Well, thank you both so
Thank you,
much.
Mary.
It's such a wonderful organization, and I love the fact that that from its beginning, it's just kind of rippled outward to involve more theater-loving people, to incubate talents and plays, and then to have a positive impact on all the communities you serve, providing great theater. For appreciative audiences, and then returning the proceeds.
That's a
to
nice
keep
slogan.
it going.
Great theater for
Anyway.
appreciative
The
audiences.
and Mary, thank you. Thank
Oh,
you
my
for letting
pleasure.
us tell our story a little
Really,
bit.
yeah.
And if anyone who wants to come by, please do to these meetings and check out the Facebook page.
It's a
'cause-
friendly group,
Yeah.
Oh, clearly.
non-judgmental.
Clearly, and very encouraging. You may discover talent you didn't know you had. So
And all of us have done exactly that.
there you go. So there'll be lots of inspiring life stories to build upon. So thank you both so
Thank
much
you.
for taking time to
Thank
visit the
you.
morning show and talk about the Playwrights Collaborative and how you invented it and how it grew. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks.
Well, that's it for today, everybody. Please join us again next Thursday at 9 for the morning show. Till then, be well, everybody.